I'm the person who has seen this show before.
I'm a person who's never watched an anime.
HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. Hey, hello and welcome back to the HiroBabble podcast. I'm your host, Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And today, we're coming back at you yet again with another double episode.
So.
And this episode, we're going to be covering episodes 17 and 18 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Episode 17 is aptly titled The Fourth Child, and episode 18 is called Ambivalence. So, lots to cover, I think, especially in these two. I mean, not to mimic ourselves from last episode, but 17, 18 back to back go really well into one another. And at this rate, we could just say each episode goes well back to back because as we've been watching them, they never miss a beat.
Right. They all are seamless, but these two, I think, similar to Ray 1 and Ray 2 or whatever that we watched.
Totally.
These ones are meant to be like you watch them back to back. I can't imagine waiting a week after 17 to get to 18. Yeah. Because it is just so like seamless.
Well, in the end of 17 too, really just like, I don't know, for me, left me when I first watched it kind of wondering, oh, well, I gotta know what happens next. Right. On to the next. And I think that especially towards these episodes in the teens, maybe the later teens, kind of 14 onward, that feeling really just keeps, building and building and building where every episode has a lot happen, but then they're like, but what about this? And then, and then you kind of go, yeah, what about that? And then it's on to the next one.
Well, we're starting to get answers, and that has been really, really exciting. I actually, as soon as I finished watching these, I called you and was just like, dude, these are actually like really good. Yeah. Can't wait to talk about them.
My response is always like, oh, dude, just wait. Because, which is a very stereotypical response of someone who's seen it already, but it is exciting to hear Spencer stoked about, like episode 8. And then I'm like, oh, dude, we're not even there yet. And I still feel that way at episode, all the way up to 18. So.
Well, you kept telling me, like after every kind of chapter in The Last of Us Part 2, you kept telling me, dude, just wait, it gets crazier. And I remember thinking to myself, there's no way in hell it gets crazier than this. And it did. Yeah. So now I trust you. And so let us know in the comments all your opinions on The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. Which is, of course, probably not going to lead to any, hot opinions or, crazy takes, because everyone loved that game.
It's universally loved.
Critically acclaimed.
It is critically acclaimed.
Yeah. The critics love it. The fans love it. The people who like Last of Us 1 hate it.
It's similar to the movie Venom.
Yeah. Well.
Everybody just loved that one. Right?
I think you're thinking of Venom from Spider-Man 3.
Ooh. Yeah. Punk Venom.
Yeah. Where to beat him, Spider-Man just played like those whacker sticks.
Boom whackers,
but they were just metal rods.
Yeah, well, the sound waves get to Venom like that, and he gets all squiggly, and then he's out of there.
Yeah, the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man movies was just amazing.
I agree.
We didn't deserve that level of...
As kids?
No, but...
The same with the games. The games for those movies were also very good, and it's rare at that time, especially, that you'd get a good movie game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I will say, while not tied to the movies, those new Spider-Man games, Miles Morales and Amazing Spider-Man. Whew.
Yeah, I've only played the PS4 Spider-Man. I have not played Miles Morales, but it's on my first to get and play list. I love Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, and I can't say I blame you. He's a bitching character. Yeah. Speaking of bitching characters, though, let's talk Masato.
Okay.
Episode 17 opens up with her getting essentially fully barraged with questions by Gendo's right-hand man, Fuzumia Fazio, Lord Farquaad.
Yes.
And pretty much, it's very telling. They're kind of really laying into her about, what went wrong, what happened here,
Right.
When can Shinji be back, to fully piloting an EVA? Is there anything wrong with him? This is the first instance of an angel trying to assimilate with an EVA. What?
Well, for those viewers that maybe are tuning in for this episode, for their first episode.
This is their first one.
Can you break down just really quickly what happened at the end of episode 16 that would lead Masato to be interrogated at the beginning of this episode?
Well, I would say that she would be interrogated. Well, I mean, pretty much the end of episode 16 is the EVA unit going berserk.
Yeah.
Ripping apart the angel.
The shadow. Yep.
And then, I mean, are you saying because Masato goes, I'll reprimand him when he's back, but then when Shinji is alive, she hugs him and goes, oh, thank God. Out of care? What is your...
Well, my point, I guess, is that this episode is one of the only episodes that starts with you've either seen the last episods or you would have no idea what's going on. And usually they'll start with, just some action.
Yeah.
Where, it doesn't really matter. Or they'll start with a breakfast where it's it eases you in.
Yeah.
This is directly okay, you better be caught up because we're jumping right into
Oh yeah, that's
what's
a good
happening.
point. Sorry, I thought you were asking for something specific. What did she do in episode 16 that would lead her to be questioned? And I was like, I don't know.
This is why we rehearse, Fernie.
We record 17 takes of the podcast. Okay, let's do the real deal now.
Okay, I'm ready.
But yeah, so that's a really good point because, like you said, every other episode either ends and they give you a little breadcrumb of something to be, oh, what was that? One episode ends with Lilith carrying this, Ray carrying the spear.
What?
The spear of Longinus towards Eve. And then another episode ends with Ray, in a test tube with Gendo. And then all of that is
yeah,
what's happening?
Yes.
And now, kind of like you said, we just watched Shinji go through a full psyche breakdown inside of an angel. And then his EVA took over and killed said angel. And then he was immediately hospitalized. And so the fallout... usually what happens is it's pretty self-contained. So, think back to Jet Alone.
Mm-hmm.
That issue was started in the episode, the climax happened, and the resolution happened.
Yeah.
All in the episode. And that's how it's been, but now, kind of exactly like you're saying, it's no longer this game of, what's up? We're all just hanging out.
Yep.
An angel!
Yes.
They kill the angel. Angel's dead. Everyone gets to celebrate. And Kaji, makes out with all the women.
Yeah.
And that's usually how it goes. But now the stakes are raised a bit because, Gendo's right-hand man says it, and I made a specific note of it. This is the first instance of an angel attempting to take an EVA unit. And Gendo makes a comment where he goes, I think the angels are getting more intelligent. And, and Masato goes... What do you mean, more intelligent? And the right-hand man guy goes, you don't get to ask him questions.
Yeah, we're the ones asking the questions.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. And she's like, okay. But overall, I think that's a very good point. This is...
Yeah.
I think we've now kind of hit a point in the show where things don't stick to the one episode. It's more of I call it the snowball is starting to roll down the mountain.
Yes, it is.
And I think episode 16 was the one that really kicked that off.
Yeah, we might be in full avalanche come episode 18.
Yeah.
Part of my reasoning for asking you to do that is just, Stan Lee, his thing with Marvel Comics was always, 'Every single comic that we make, no matter if it's issue 100 or 50 or 99, 99, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100 1 or 9
Yeah.
could be somebody's very first comic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to always give enough background that would make them love the character.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, now that the episodes are really not giving us much backstory, we could sum up the entire show up to this point in a haiku before every episode. Easy, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let you work on that for next week.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you too.
Okay.
I want to hear what you think.
All right, we'll both do it. We write that down.
But I'm trying to think of like a haiku now. I'll save it for later.
Yeah.
But pretty much, I kind of got ahead of myself. They talked to Masato, and then Masato's dismissed. Then Gendo and Fuzumiha, I really should remember his name.
I don't even know it.
He appears for like exposition in like a handful of episodes, then he's gone.
Yep.
But that's when him and Gendo have this discussion of, the angels are getting smarter. And, Gendo, I think, says it was only a matter of time. And then the right-hand man guy goes, not a lot of time left.
Yeah, I wrote that down. He says time's running short.
Yeah.
In mine, yeah. So
And
I wrote that down just because it's like, we know that those two men have more of an understanding of what's happening with the angels and everything than everybody else. And so the fact that the show is showing us that they're getting a little bit nervous and that things might maybe starting to happen that maybe they haven't completely planned for.
Well, and that's what to me is really interesting, because I wouldn't even say both of them are nervous. Every time a comment is made about, things are getting a little bit dicey, wouldn't you say? It's always coming from the right-hand man. It's never coming from Gendo.
It's never from Gendo. That's true.
And I think the real, outlier is, and you even kind of start to see it now with Ritsuko, I think Gendo has sold a lot of people on what's happening, or like what the angels are, the second impact, all that stuff. And he's really kind of the only one that has the full picture. And so you have all these people that are like, oh yeah, we're fighting the Evas to save the world. That's like what Masato was sold.
Yeah.
Ritsuko is given this excuse, I'm guessing, of, hey, we're going to save the world. There's a little bit of, deeper stuff going on here, but at the end of the day, it's all to avoid a third impact. And so, but even like when she witnesses EVA-1 freak out, she's rocked. And she makes a few comments in this episode and in episode 18 where she's like, what have we created?
Right.
What are the Evas? And I think that those questions start to build up more and more for these people that were kind of sold on this pipe dream, as opposed to actually being given any sort of insight into what's going on.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, I guess less than Gendo necessarily being nervous, but them admitting that, it's crunch time.
Yeah.
Shows a sense of, importance, that things are happening now.
Yeah. So basically jumping from that initial interrogation and all of that, pretty much it then immediately shifts to a huge emergency has taken place, or a huge event or disaster has happened where one of the nerve bases located in the United States has just vanished. It's completely gone from the map. And when they ask to see the footage of what happened, they rewind 10 seconds, and then you watch, and then at second 0 when it happens, just a crater.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is Ritsuko kind of gives some context as to what they were working on, and she's like, yeah, they had just finished, EVA Unit 4, and they were going to install this battery that would give it, limitless energy, so we wouldn't have to use the cords, or, they wouldn't run out of power, and then it just disappeared.
They say that the city pretty much just vanished.
Yeah, well, and
this was in the United States, right?
Yeah, and so then basically there's talks of, the U.S. has kind of decided that they don't want to handle these anymore, so they're going to send them over to Japan, And Misato makes a comment kind of asking, like, you know, is there anything, like, else that could have happened? Like, what was being worked on there? And Ritsuko goes, you know, I don't think so. And Misato goes, huh? You hiding something from me again?
Yeah.
And it's just very interesting seeing that dynamic because they're still friends, and you can tell they're still friends, but Misato is now very much no longer disillusioned to the idea that there could be something going on that she's not being told.
Right.
But what did you think of that whole base disappearance?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a shock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shock factor. We'd heard that, you know, an EVA Unit 2 was built in Germany.
Yeah.
And we knew that the United States is working in this program, but we didn't quite know exactly what they're doing. So...
And that they were, like, demanding they get to make an EVA unit, or that they wanted to be a part of it.
Very U.S. So, the fact that it went wrong, or, you know, that they're at least telling us that something went wrong to make a city vanish like that, is troublesome. Because, I mean, they work on... I think Masato's point is, like, but we work on all this same crap here.
Yeah, so what could have gone so south...
Yeah.
And what's to stop that from happening here?
Right. And I think that that's where she's sort of like, there's something else happening there.
Yeah.
And you're not telling me about it.
Yeah. And Ritsuko is kind of just like, yeah, well, they're bringing EVA Unit 3 here, and we already have a candidate picked out.
Right.
Who's going to pilot the new EVA. And she shows Misato, and Misato is just kind of like, what? Him? And... she makes a reference to, I'm trying to remember the name of the institute, the Marduk Institute.
Oh yeah, the Marduk, yeah.
And goes, what? The Marduk Institute already picked out a new candidate?
Yeah.
And Ritsuko goes, yeah, they were...
Craziest thing.
They were vetting them the whole time.
Yeah.
And Misato kind of starts to panic because she realizes, oh my god, I'm going to have to tell Shinji, you know, who the new pilot is, which, should we just to get it out of the way.
Well, I mean, it's not that hard to infer when watching the episode.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of knew... They mix in this little subplot of Toji going to visit his little sister.
Who got hurt in the first episode that Shinji was in the EVA unit
So this is actually... The whole story of this is a very nice callback of a seed that was planted early. Like, this is actually coming full circle very well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's this whole idea that his sister's obviously still needs a lot of medical attention, and he goes and visits her constantly. There's a couple little other subplot things where, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but where reporter kid isn't at school.
Yep. Kensuke.
Kensuke, yep. But yeah, I think we can go out and say it. Toji
is essentially the person that Ritsuko shows Misato is going to be the new pilot for EVA 3.
The kid that punches Shinji in the face just because he's an EVA pilot.
Well, not just because he's an EVA pilot. His sister got horribly injured because of Shinji's first time piloting.
That's true. That's a very important detail.
Yeah, and that's actually referenced later after Toji is told that he's going to be an EVA pilot. But before we get there, after Misato and Ritsuko talk about the new pilot of Unit 3, it cuts to Gendo talking with Ritsuko about the dummy plug. And Rei is in her test tube. She's just vibing, hanging out. And pretty much Ritsuko says, yeah, we are ready to go with this dummy plug. It's based off Rei's DNA. However, it's not fully, like, you know, all of the kinks aren't ironed out. You know, I don't think it's ready for field use. And Gendo just kind of goes, well, you know, that's fine. We just need it to work.
Right. So essentially this dummy plug is something they can put into an EVA that doesn't have a pilot.
Yep.
And this dummy plug works as, essentially it's like what, Rei's conscience or sort of Rei's like, it's some sort of like almost AI decision-making process that's based off of Rei, right?
That syncs up with an EVA in the same way a pilot would, like through the nerve link, stuff like that.
So that they don't even need pilots.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess as an autopilot mode, I can understand the thought process. Should a pilot pass out? Should something go wrong? They're incapacitated.
It's good for like testing and stuff too, I'm sure.
Well, and so after it's in that scene, it cuts to the school. I think it shows the scene of Toji visiting his sister. Some nurses are talking, and they're like, there's that boy again.
Yep.
And one of the nurses goes, yeah, his sister was injured very badly during one of the angel attacks. Or, like, one of the attacks or something. Yeah. And the other nurse goes, wow, well, that is so sweet. He goes to visit her.
Yeah.
There aren't many, compassionate men like that anymore.
Right.
So, you can tell he has a good heart. Or something along those lines. And it was at that moment, I remember when I first watched it, this feeling of dread. I was like, why are they talking so good about my boy Toji?
I know.
We know he's been good. We know he's compassionate.
Yes, we know he's the tough guy with the soft interior.
Well, and let's just say those nurses aren't the only ladies to see it. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
A little bit of a romance.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, dude. The minute they introduced, like, a romance subplot, I was like, oh, fuck.
I know. You know that shit's about to hit the fan.
Yeah, well, so after that scene with the hospital, then it cuts back to school. Toji's just hanging out. He's talking with Shinji, and I think they're talking about Eva stuff, and then Asuka walks up and goes, why didn't you pack my lunch? And he goes, I've been in the hospital, and I had too much homework. And she goes, sure. And then Toji makes a joke, and he goes, looks like the newlyweds are fighting. And
I know.
The laughs, oh my god. In my dub, it just sounded like, oh, got him. And I just fucking loved it. But classic Toji.
It really is. Yes, him and Asuka have always had a good back and forth together.
Oh yeah. Well, and what's just funny is like, he swoons over Masato, but is just like, I don't give a shit about you, Asuka. Shut up.
Right.
Right. And it is just funny to know that there are at least some characters that are willing to give her the shit back that she dishes out to everybody else.
Right.
So then from there, and this is where I get a bit confused name-wise, because I'm trying to remember the name of the student that is, like, crushing on Toji.
I've been calling her teacher's pet
the
entire run of the...
Okay.
On HiroBabble, that's what I've referred to her as.
Well, I think her name might be Hikari, because she's the class representative, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because she walks up to Shinji and Toji, mainly Toji, and goes, hey, you have to take Ayanami's work to her. And he's like, what? She goes, yeah, it's your week, class rep. And he's like, oh, fuck.
I know.
But then, of course, Shinji's like, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll help. Let me go with you.
Anything to have friends, Shinji.
Well, anything to see Rei, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because, I mean...
Or Ayanami, as he calls her.
Yeah, well, not... He doesn't call...
He's the only one.
No, he doesn't call her. He calls her Rei. Everyone else addresses her... Because I think it's like, in Japan, the honorific is to go by last name. Like...
Right.
I don't think first names are used unless it's like, you're very close.
It's different. I feel like it's different between our dubs sometimes, which one uses last name and first name. I know for a fact that Asuka only calls Rei, first children or something? In my version.
In my dub, she's like, oh, you mean superstar?
Oh, God.
Or just fucking... Oh, you mean the best? Or some dumb shit.
Right. God.
But I think it's similar in my dub. Yeah. Where Asuka's like, oh, the first child. Or, Miss Dumb Head. That is, I think, that's said in episode 15, I think.
So Shinji's trying to get a feel on again.
Yeah, he's trying to go cop a feel.
Yeah.
This time maybe not accidentally.
Right.
He's just hoping Toji isn't a cock block. But they go to Rei's apartment, and they get there, and Shinji's like, well, guess we should go in. And Toji's like, what? Dude,
I know.
Why are we going into her house? Which is so funny, because it cuts back to the first time Shinji had to go there.
Yeah.
And he just went in.
I know.
But now there's like a normal person who's like, what?
I know. Shinji's like, bro, I've done this before.
Yeah. And I got a full titty grab out of it.
Yeah.
Listen, dude. Just...
and she's my mom.
Yeah. No. But, so they go in, and have you ever seen that meme where it's like, damn, bitch, you live like this?
Yeah.
And it's like a messy room?
Yeah.
That is how I felt when they walked in, because Toji's like, oh my god, this house is so dirty.
Right.
Rei lives here? And Shinji's like, yep. And then just starts cleaning. And he goes,
I know.
what are you doing cleaning for? We shouldn't be touching her stuff. And he goes, I'm just trying to be helpful.
I know. Classic Shinji.
Yeah. Well, and then that's when Toji kind of sits down, and he says this line of, first time I saw you, you seemed like the biggest jerk.
Right.
Just like you didn't really know how to care for anybody else. But now that you've come out of your shell, you're different.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Toji, you punched this kid.
I know.
This isn't... You don't get to say, yeah, dude, you seemed like a real jerk. Says the guy that just fucking socked him.
Yep.
Granted, I'm not going to say Toji's emotions weren't valid, but I think we really... How fitting that the guy that does that, it goes, yeah, I thought you were kind of a jerk.
Right.
You don't know how to care for anybody else.
Right.
No, you're picking up Rei's trash, and I think you're all right. But then their little bromance moment is spoiled.
I know.
As Rei gets home.
Women.
Moms. Am I right?
Moms. I know. You better be cleaning your room.
Well, so they go in, and Toji's like, I'm sorry. And she goes, why are you sorry? And Shinji goes, we brought you your work. And she goes, thank you. And then it cuts to them leaving, and then Rei is just sitting on her bed, and she goes, thank you. Words of gratitude. I've never said them. Not even to him. And looks at Gendo's glasses, and I'm like, oh!
Yes, she's... Okay, I quoted this in mine as well.
Yeah.
She says, thank you. Man's first words. Words I've never spoken to him. And that's when she looks at the glasses.
Yeah. Very interesting, though.
Yeah. I really liked that.
I mean, she's just an ungrateful little...
Yep.
It's
like, everything's expected when you're mommy.
Oh, God.
I mean, the two men in her life, she either raised or...
Got cloned by.
Yeah. So.
Or is also her son.
Oh, I don't know if we mentioned it. There's a little tiny scene in the very beginning of Gendo and Rei talking, and Gendo asks her, like, how's school going?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, I think the only point of that scene is just to once again reiterate the fact that they do have, like, a rapport together that's somewhat normal. And she's just kind of like...
Normal being subjective in this case.
Right.
Not to interrupt.
But she's just like, it's good.
Yeah.
And he's like, good.
Nice. Oh, that's so great. Oh, are you getting good grades?
I think that's pretty much the scene. But
yeah. Well, and so that's a really good point. And it is interesting that, in parallel with the scene where she goes, thank you.
Right.
Words I've never said. And then, like, turns into Ava 16. So, but it is still interesting, though. Shinji, I think, is having a more profound impact on her, which is just cool to think about. But from that scene, it then cuts to Kozo. That's his name. I keep forgetting. Right-hand man, as I aptly name him.
That's easier than
you
would think it would be.
the last name. So Kozo and Gendo are taking a... subway through what they dub New Tokyo 3.
Yeah.
And it's just this giant upside down city, and Kozo makes a comment where he goes, "It's crazy. After 7 years, we can finally finish construction."
Yeah.
And they kind of have this weird back and forth where they're basically saying, like, you know, mankind built this. You know, Gendo kind of goes on this tangent where he goes, we built ourselves paradise. We escaped to Earth and we made this for ourselves. And Kozo goes, "It is true, cowards tend to live longer." And Gendo goes, "It's not cowardice, you know, if it's paradise," something like that.
Right.
And then they talk about Cell, the round table, and pretty much Kozo goes, "So Gendo, what are you going to say to those guys? Surely they've asked about it." And he goes, "I'll tell them the truth.
Yeah.
I'll tell them we've never experienced this before, and we gained a lot of good data, and EVA-1 is back in fighting form." And you know, Gendo goes, "Yeah, you know, they'll probably have to adjust their schedules." And Kozo kind of laughs and he goes, "Yeah, they're probably adjusting them right now." To which Gendo name drops this. He goes, "Yeah, you know, just because it doesn't follow the Dead Sea Scrolls to a T doesn't mean, you know, it isn't supposed to happen."
Right. So
and the last time they mentioned those scrolls was like episode 7.
No, it was the end of the Clips episode.
Oh, that's right.
They just randomly throw out the fucking Dead Sea Scrolls, and you're like,
"That's right."
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And so it's just a very interesting name drop to have, you know, Gendo throw that out there.
This is the first time, and they may have mentioned it in episode 7, and I just didn't really catch it, but this is the first time that I realized that that's like some sort of prophecy.
Yeah.
Right? That all of this is supposed to be happening in order, and that these people are in some ways responsible to either ensure that it happens or that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that kind of cleared some shit up for me as far as like what the point is in all this. And you also get, you said it was Kozo?
Yes.
You once again get him on the side of like, yeah, like it's great that we're screwing with all this stuff, but like, what if we're all exterminated from it?
Yeah, whereas Gendo is very much talking about it.
Progress.
We're going to see this through to completion.
Yeah, who cares? Either way, we're going to do it.
And yeah, kind of like I think we were talking about earlier, even this guy who is the right-hand man is kind of just in a position of, even he, I don't think, knows the final like piece of the puzzle.
Well, what makes it interesting is typically when you see things like this, like that fight or flight for humanity.
Yeah.
Right? Where your back's against the wall and you either fight for your human race, or you you're usually not presented with a choice.
Yeah.
And Gendo makes it very much seem like we don't have a choice. We will be exterminated if we don't do something. And Kozo is very much like, if we weren't fucking with this, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, for me watching this for the first time, that's like one of the most interesting arguments is these two kind of higher up people that may or may not know the truth. I mean, I'm sure Gendo does. Kozo now I'm questioning whether he does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think Gendo has spun what they're doing as its own story to fit whatever people need it to be.
Do you think Kaji knows?
Well, I think that's the whole reason Kaji is like spying. I think he knows that there is way more going on here than Gendo is willing to admit, and I think he honestly has probably the biggest picture right under Gendo of what's really happening here.
Who does Kaji work for? Does he work for someone else in that cell group?
Kaji works for the Japanese government.
Okay,
he's literally like a federal agent that's undercover trying to figure out what NERV is up to, because there are like political parties that are kind of going, we let these guys operate with next to no oversight from us.
Right.
And I think we're being given the runaround, which is true, because in almost every instance, you know, like whenever an angel fight happens or something goes south, the story that Gendo tells to the public, or, yeah, guys, it wasn't that bad. And, it's almost always covered up to fit whatever narrative Nerve needs it to be.
It's actually very, very similar to the Trade Federation plot of Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah.
Where essentially the Republic has granted an army for the Trade Commerce Group to defend themselves, but it kind of goes unchecked.
Yep.
And now they've just built themselves, an entire attacking army, and they can't really do anything about it. Like, essentially, okay, we created this, but now it's over our heads, and we can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
So they dispatch 2 Jedi, but in this case, they dispatch Kaji.
Yep.
To get to the bottom of it. See, it's all making sense now.
And to make some sweet love along the way.
Right. Oh, of course.
Which, I mean, speaking of...
They could make like a Kaji 007 spin-off series.
I'd watch that in a heartbeat. Well, just... The guy just oozes, like, just kind of a swagger that is unmatched. And we get to see that at the vending machines when he's hitting on... I think it's Mari.
I think it's gross.
What? I don't know. I'm not saying I condone, but she was into it.
She didn't seem as into it.
My dub made it seem like she was like, Kaji, stop.
Really? Yeah. I wrote here, Kaji is gross as fuck.
Oh, shit.
It clearly seemed the opposite in mine.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to dub, because in mine, they're like kind of flirting. And
it must.
Like... Kaji makes a comment where he goes, "What if I cover that mouth of yours with mine?" And she goes, Kaji. And then Masada walks up and Mari goes, I need to go run reports, and runs away. And Masada goes, "So are you gonna hook up with everyone in Nerve?" And he goes, "That depends. You want to hook up with me?"
Yeah, what are you doing later?
What an amazing rebuttal. And then she goes, "That depends. Tell me about the Marduk Institute."
Right. And he's like, "It doesn't exist!"
Think of code 707.
I know, I wrote that down. I'm like, as if the audience knows what that means.
Oh, code 707.
It all makes sense.
Oh my, 7 archangels, 0 devils, 7 minutes an episode.
Of end credits.
Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra.
Oh, God.
But very interesting back and forth between the two of them, because now I think Masato, at this point, if it wasn't clear before, there's no doubt she's putting on the facade of, like, I'm still in this, but is now, like, emotionally, morally conflicted.
She still, like, has a job at Nerve.
But is now like, okay, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Yes.
And,
exactly.
And then it gets to hushed tones because Shinji walks up. Misato, they need you for some tests. Right. And then Shinji walks up, and I wrote this down.
I wrote it down in mine as well. I'm excited to see what yours says.
This is an amazing line. So Masato goes and runs off, and Shinji walks up to the vending machine, and Kaji goes, "Hey, kid, can I buy you a drink? A tea?" And Shinji goes, "Kaji, I'm a boy."
Dude, the Netflix one is so dumb.
Oh, no.
It's the same thing, but Kaji goes, "Hey, kid, have tea with me." And then Shinji goes, "But I'm not a girl." And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, but yours is actually like what a human being would say.
Well, and I just love that Shinji's like, "What are you trying to schmooze me for, dude?"
I know.
I'm a guy. I don't care. And I will say though, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this next kind of like bonding sesh.
The like watermelon patch.
Yeah, because Kaji goes, "Let me take you somewhere special."
This is so dumb, but like,
but kind of profound,
nice.
Because Kaji is very much this guy that gives off this aloof, womanizer, and that's not to say those aren't true, but in addition, he's got like a sensitive side.
Right, where he just unwinds by watering his watermelons.
He maintains a garden.
Yeah.
With what time, I don't know, but him and Shinji are talking, and he's like, making something grow is great because it brings pleasure to see your hard work pay off.
Right.
And then Shinji, is just kind of solemnly sitting there, and he goes, but it can also bring pain, right? And then Kaji goes, that's what you're afraid of, isn't it? Pain. And Shinji goes, yeah.
Yeah. I got punched at school.
This fucking bitch Toji.
You know him?
But then Kaji kind of goes, hey, being kind isn't a weakness. And, that pain you may experience from, loss or hurt, that doesn't make you any lesser than it.
Right.
It's something that, is a part of you, but doesn't have to be all of you. Something along those lines.
Right. Basically, that Shinji's not defined by that to Kaji. That he understands that life is complex and it's not that easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote... Because after this heart-to-heart scene, it cuts to Toji. And Toji's having that conversation with the class rep. He's sitting at his desk, his feet on the, He's just chilling, eating his, convenience store lunch. And the class rep goes, you have to clean the desks, right? It's your week. And he goes, yeah, I didn't get lunch, so I'm going to eat and then I'll do it. And she goes, well, I make all the lunches for me and my two sisters, and sometimes there's just way more than we could eat.
Right.
And Toji goes, oh, that seems like a waste. Well, I'm happy to save the waste or the leftovers.
I know, yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay.
Right. It's funny, in my version, and it's the same scene, but she's very much flirting with him and sort of hey, I am actually been practicing and I'm a bomb-ass cook. Yeah. And I would love to cook you lunch since I see that you don't eat sometimes.
Yeah.
And I would be down to do that, but how do I ask you that in a way that doesn't seem like I'm coming on to you? And then he's just I could he's minding his own business.
Yeah.
And he's just I could eat your leftovers, I guess, if it'll get you to leave. I'll eat your leftovers.
And then she's like, oh my god, yes.
Yes, thank you, see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye, Toji.
I gotta go cook.
Well, and so then, from that, heartwarming scene, just very sweet, but also dread-filled, it then cuts to Kaji, and he's, typing up a report, and Asuka, is outside his office and goes, okay, opens the door, oh, Kaji! And he's leave me alone. And she goes, what? And then runs and jumps on him and he goes, can you seriously just back off?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my god. Imagine having to deal with horny women of all ages.
Right.
You've got Asuka, who's 14. Then you have to deal with Masato and Ritsuko.
Uh-huh.
And you have to go hit on the lady at the vending machine later.
Just to keep your image up.
Yeah. God, it's exhausting. I feel
exhausting.
for him.
Plus, he has a real job.
And you're a double agent the whole time.
Right, yeah, 2 real jobs.
Yeah. Man's working...
He's doing the paperwork, and he's like, I don't even work here.
I'm literally trying to take them down from the inside. Oh, fuck this shit.
Well, I gotta fix this typo.
Well, and so then, after that, Asuka, leans over his shoulder and sees the report and goes, wait, that's the 4th child?
Right.
It's him, and loses it and storms out, which is then followed by a cut to the classroom the next day. They're all in class, and then Toji gets called to the principal's office.
Yeah.
And that's where he's essentially told that he is the next, EVA pilot.
Right. Do you want to know something interesting?
Yes.
And I think that this is both kind of I told you from the beginning I had the suspicion that it was Toji. Because
Really?
they were putting so much time... Not from the beginning of the show. From the beginning of this episode. They just put so much time into getting you to know the character all of a sudden in this episode that I was like, well, they're going to do something with him now.
This is death flags.
I actually thought, and I'll give them credit for this, that they called Toji to the principal's office to tell him that his sister passed away. and that reporter kid who's been gone was the fourth child.
Damn.
And I will admit that while in my brain, I was like, it's Kensuke or whatever is the fourth child. Or, excuse me, Taji was. The end of this episode made me feel like it was Kensuke.
Really?
Yeah, so I actually wrote in my notes, in pen.
Wow.
Toji's sister died.
Wow, I'm verifying that. He did.
He did in fact.
He did, in fact, make that bold assumption.
We'll frame this and sell it on our Patreon.
$5.
But anyway, I mean, from the get-go, I guessed it right, but then the ending made me second guess it.
Yeah, and that's
I'll
fair.
give him credit for that.
Well, and the end of this episode is very like, just kind of sad. It's got this like air of like, you as the viewer kind of going, this isn't gonna end well. I think for anybody. And I think Toji, because he gets told that, and then he has the flashback of punching Shinji.
Yeah.
And this is while he's on that basketball court. He like has the flashback, and then he shoots it, and it's a swish.
Right.
But
then it shows him by like a fucking incinerator.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, this bitch just cremated his sister. I'm fully invested in that, and that's why I was so confused. Is what the hell is he doing?
Well, but then you find out next episode what actually happens to his sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very interesting. I truthfully, in all of my viewings of this, I'm not entirely sure what the incinerator, that scene is supposed to mean.
It's 100% to bait people like me.
Well, either that, or I also feel like it's meant to symbolize this idea that like Toji is looking into what his future is now. Or maybe how he views it.
Sure.
All of your dreams go up into ash and smoke, that kind of thing. He's a sports guy. He's very he loves that, but now he's a naval pilot. Well, and
that was really well said.
Well, but by extension, I think that it robs him now of that agency, and I think he, in this it's literally 2 minutes, kind of just him.
Yeah.
At the incinerator, then he's at the basketball court, but I think for him, he now fully realizes, oh my God, this is what Shinji was going through the whole time, and I punched him in the face.
Right.
And now, this is entirely on me. So, yeah, very, very powerful ending, and I think just the end of him shooting that last basket is just...
It just shows you what could have been.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of what could have been, what is your score?
Speaking of what could have been your score, what is your score? My rating for this, in talking about this with you, this episode seems really good.
Yeah.
I gave this a 7 out of 10, which is, good.
Yeah.
The reason it's not higher is because I felt like while this gives you this picks up a lot of breadcrumbs and it really does a good job story-wise, it just is so all over the place.
It is.
There's so many different things it has to juggle to get you set up for the next episode. And I'll admit, we're about to talk about the next episode. It does all pay off.
Yeah.
But at the moment when I had just finished this episode, I was kind of left wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough in contrast because earlier episodes did arguably the same amount of information in a way more palatable format.
Right.
But the constant jumps between Nerve to other Nerve, and by that I mean Gendo and Kozo, to Kaji, to the classroom. It never stayed long enough in one place to, of course, overstay its welcome, but it also never stayed long enough to solidify, a scene. I think this episode is strong in its moments, because there's a lot of moments that I think of this episode, the final shot with Toji, the scene of him and that girl talking about, lunch, Kaji and Shinji talking in the garden, Masato and Ritsuko having that back and forth. There's really good moments, but kind of like you said, you really have to like process after the fact what's going on.
Yeah. It drops plot.
Otherwise, you'll think the sister died, and Kensuke is the third EVA pilot.
I know.
It can go real quick.
Yeah. So yeah, I think 7 is where I'm gonna stick. It's a solid rating. There's nothing bad about that. But I think it's tough to even say that it could have been better because it is so well handled in the next one. So I'm just gonna leave it at a 7.
I put it at a 7.5.
Yeah.
And I kind of for the same reasons you did. I did the 0.5 though because I really just like this episode leading into episode 18 because even though I know what's gonna happen, there's just this feeling of dread kind of hanging over me or hung over me as I was watching these, because as everything's happening, in the back of your mind something's gonna go south here. It's not something's gonna go wrong. And you immediately start to think of, okay, well, who's going to pay the price for it?
Right.
And you don't want it to be Toji.
Right.
Because Toji has pretty much already suffered because of his sister. You don't want it to be Shinji, because an episode ago, man just had a full psychotic break. You don't want it to be like any of the people you care about, but it's now getting to a point in the show where who else is it going to be?
I mean, shit, I watched him cremate his sister in my version.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 100% sure that's what he was doing.
Yeah, well...
And then he went and shot a basketball afterwards.
Yeah, and so, I don't know. As a whole, I think the moments that stand out to me in this episode are really strong and kind of hold their own.
I agree.
But I think also what you're saying, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I will say, not to start to cut you off, but retrospectively... Yeah. Like, if I was to grade this episode now, knowing what happens in episode 18, I would probably give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
But at the time when I watched it, I was a little bit baffled, and I didn't really like the decision to kill Toji's sister. So I was sort of like, well, that was pointless.
This is really dark. I don't know.
But, like, all right.
Yeah, well, speaking of how well it leads in from 17 to 18, right off the rip, episode 18 opens up with the Unit 3 being transferred from the United States to the nerve facility in Japan. In episode 17, Gendo makes mention that he's going to leave the transportation up to the United Nations to get the unit there safely and succinctly, which, of course, and this is a personal take. These new angels can fuck off. They're not even beings anymore. They're just like, oh my god, this one's a computer virus and this one is a cloud. And admittedly, as we watch, I'm not going to say anything about what about the origins of the angels, but this shift makes sense because the angels are getting smarter. And if the angels have any sort of control over their form or how they manifest or the way in which they, try to get to Adam in Nerve, this is working. And it's working scarily well.
Yeah, it is.
So, as Unit 3 is being transported, as luck would have it, it flew through a cloud that was actually an angel, and the angel kind of weasels its way into Unit 3.
Yep.
Unbeknownst to anybody. Of course, the next day, it's supposed to be scheduled to have Toji test his sync rate and all that good stuff. After that opening scene, we get to see the one and only Kensuke. He's back from the trip with his dad.
And he's not the EVA pilot.
And he's not the EVA pilot.
He wants to be
but
so
goddamn does he want to be.
See, that's why the end of the last episode was believable for me, is because they had sort of set the seed that Kensuke would be really good, or at least he thinks he'd be really good as an EVA pilot.
Yeah.
He's got all the knowledge. He's willing to, practice and do everything you could possibly do to be the best EVA pilot ever. He wants to save the world. He knows everything about everything military.
Yeah.
He desperately wants to be the hero that the city needs, but he won't be chosen for that.
Yeah, I really like to think of this episode as it's one big game of telephone, and Shinji has a pager.
Yes.
This episode, the entire premise is how can we ensure that Shinji almost learns what's about to happen, but then doesn't.
Yeah, everybody bitches out on telling him something difficult.
Honestly, I'll be in Misato's corner whenever she'll have me, but I am so mad. I don't know. Watching this episode frustrates me because Misato had so many chances.
I know.
And truthfully, was so hung up on the potential reaction from Shinji about telling her, hey, you know how you don't have many friends? Well, one of your only friends is the new EVA pilot. Knowing what you know now, I have some alarming news. That this is probably going to not, make you feel very good.
Right.
She is the biggest culprit of dancing around, the...
I agree. And she's trying to protect him.
But
by not telling him, she hurts him. I mean, Asuka, later in the episode, there's a moment where Asuka realizes, late in the game that Shinji doesn't know.
Yeah.
And she just yells, they didn't tell you yet? And then, something happens that cuts it off. But if Asuka knows that it's dumb that you don't know, then you should have been told.
Well, and not only that, but Shinji hasn't been told a lot of things.
Right.
Because in this conversation with Kensuke, he goes, so dude, did you hear about that branch in the United States that just disappeared?
Yeah.
And Shinji goes, no. Did you hear that EVA-4 got disappeared with it? There's an EVA-4?
I know.
Did you hear that EVA-3 is coming to the new facility? And he goes,
yeah.
No. Did you hear that they found the fourth child that's going to pilot it? No. What?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I want to be the EVA pilot super bad.
I know.
It's, and then I think it's Kensuke makes a comment about how Toji, isn't there. Or
yeah, he's like, where's
where's Toji?
Yeah.
And Shinji goes, oh yeah, I don't know. But then Toji gets back and he goes, sorry, I was at the principal's office. And the teacher goes, yep, I know. And in my dub, the teacher goes, so anyways, after mankind survived the second impact, we decided to grow bigger and better. And,
he's still teaching the same lesson he was in the first episode.
Well, it's because with all the angel attacks, I'm sure he's probably like, fuck, this...
There's never been more relevant. The Dead Sea Scrolls!
And they're all like, what?
Do you think the people in the... Well, I guess you might know, but... Does the public know about the Dead Sea Scrolls? Or is that just something that the...
I want you to ask yourself.
Some monkey knows.
Who do you think would know about the Dead Sea Scrolls?
I guess it's kind of like the Jedi. They know about the prophecy of the one holding balance, but some random...
Do it.
I'm going to say that the people in the cell know.
Yeah.
But no one else knows. Maybe the higher-ups at Nerve, maybe.
Well, maybe only Gendo and Kozo.
Yeah.
And you're spot on. They're the only ones that know about it. And that's why Gendo has to answer to Cell, because they're all kind of in the same loop of this scroll and what it says and all that stuff. So
right.
Yeah.
What's Freezer doing at this time?
Freezer?
Frieza?
Oh, she probably just died to Trunks.
Oh, again?
Yeah. Mecha Frieza.
Because if Cell's around.
Huh?
If Cell's around, then obviously
it's like First Form Cell, the one that looks like an Arby's beef pastrami sandwich.
Dude, what if Gendo was reporting to Cell?
That'd be crazy.
And this ended
up
being
of the century,
the longest con crossover that anybody'd ever.
Oh my god, people would freak out. Do
you think they would have liked it or no?
I don't know. I feel like there would probably be. It'd be mixed. I feel like some people would be like, what? They're in the same universe? And then other people are like, oh, fucking hell.
People like me that have no tie to either of them would have been like, this is the dopest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, too. I think people who are even in the know would have that same opinion, but then there would be others that go, what the fuck?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense.
We had something good here, folks.
Yeah. Well, and they do have something good. However, I will say... we're currently looking at a little something bad on the horizon.
Yeah, we are. Did we already get to where Reporter Kid makes his case to Misato in the apartment?
So that's the next scene. So Shinji is back at the apartment, and Misato's like, "Yep, I'm going to go see the new EVA for testing." And Shinji goes, "Oh, so you're gonna be gone?" And she's like, "Don't worry, Kaji will stay the night." And and I was like, "Oh my god!" But
I know.
That's when Shinji goes, "Hey, I heard that there's like a new like EVA pilot. Who is it?"
Right.
And Misato goes, yeah, it's and then Kensuke knocks on the door.
Right.
And Misato opens it and he goes, "Hello, Misato, I would like to be the 4th EVA pilot, please." And she goes, "Oh, hi, Kensuke. No, we already have them picked up." Yep. And then she goes, "Okay, well, I'm off. Bye." And then Shinji goes, "Huh, who's the new pilot?"
Right.
Oh, well, this probably won't amount to anything later.
This won't come back to bite me.
So it cuts to Ritsuko and Misato, and they're talking about, the testing, stuff like that, the EVA units there. And Misato makes a comment about, because I think Ritsuko says something along the lines of, "Yeah, I think this EVA unit, it's like advanced or something."
Right.
And Misato goes, "What? How am I not in the loop on that? Like, right. I'm the, general."
Yes.
And Ritsuko goes, "Oh, I don't think it was intentional." And Misato makes a comment again where it's along the lines of, "You're not hiding anything from me again, are you?" Right. And Ritsuko goes, "No." Anyways, let's begin the test. And they just kind of roll right into it. But before we see anything, it cuts to Kaji, Asuka, and Shinji's sleepover. Kaji gets there, and Asuka's just on her phone or watching TV or something. And Kaji goes, "Wow, you guys always like this when Misato's gone?" And Shinji goes, "I try my best to clean," or something along those lines. And Asuka goes, "I'm trying to be fun and excited that you're here, but I just can't."
Right.
And Kaji goes, "Okay. Let's go to bed then."
Yeah, time for bed.
And so they all hit the hay. And I'm trying to think, they're lying... Kaji and Shinji are sharing a bed. And Shinji goes, "Are you awake, Kaji?" And he goes, "Yep." And he goes, "Can you tell me about my dad?"
I know.
And Kaji goes, "I just knew you were going to ask me some bullshit right before bed." And do you remember what he says?
I didn't even write it down.
I didn't either.
What did I write here? Nah, it doesn't matter. I mean, what matters is that nobody's told Shinji who the damn pilot is.
Yeah.
Him asking about his dad is just like when he asks Rei about his dad, and it's everybody's like,
"God, dude, just stop.
Who gives a fuck? We all know you're miserable.
Bro, your dad hates you."
Yeah. I can't remember what he said, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I would be curious to look back, but I think if I vaguely remember Kaji just kind of like, "Yeah, probably shouldn't worry too much about his opinion," or something that.
Right. That seems like something he would say.
And so then it goes back to Misato and Ritsuko, and the testing's going, Toji's in there, everything checks out, all systems are go, and then all of a sudden, all systems are not good, and the Angel has now fully taken control over EVA 3.
Well, they bait and switch you. They show you the screen where, we originally in the Rei episode saw that it didn't pass a certain threshold.
The borderline check.
Yes. It passes that. And so you're like, okay, crisis averted. This is going to be great. We got Toji on the squad. And then
you just watch the green go back, and it just all goes red.
And it says,
And then Ritsuko makes a comment like, "Disconnect its nerve endings," or whatever. And they're like, "We can't control it." And then it cuts to a wide pan shot, and you just see a nuclear size explosion.
Right.
In like from basically the distance, and walking out of the smoke is this EVA-3.
Which, okay, that I have seen that scene.
Really?
Because it is in on Netflix, that is in the trailer for the show.
Oh, shit.
That I watched when we first started this.
Okay.
And I remember seeing that and thinking, that has to just be like a trailer thing. Because we haven't seen something that looks like that until now. Well, now we have, and I'm like, shit, look at that. They're just giving away the ending right in the trailer. That's great.
Oh, fuck.
So, but yeah, that scene is cool looking with like the red background and the shadow of the... It looks really cool.
Yeah, and so EVA-3's on the loose, and at this point, EVA 0, 1, and 2 have all been dispatched to go fight it.
Yep.
They're all in their positions, and Shinji goes, hey, if this is an angel, that still means there's a pilot in there, right?
Right.
And Asuka goes, like you were making a comment to earlier, she goes, oh my god, nobody's told you? The new pilot is...
I know.
And you watch basically like the screen go to static, and then EVA 2 is just like frumped on the ground.
Right.
And then it cuts to Rei, and Gendo goes, Rei, engage with Unit 3 at long range. Don't get into close quarters combat. And Rei is locking on, but she has the same blockage where she goes, there's someone in there.
Right.
And she can't take the shot. And then EVA 3 kind of like stops, and then just doesn't jump. It's not a jump. It just lifts itself in the air, and then is on top of Unit 0.
Right.
And it starts seeping this weird goop from its arm that gets into Unit 0's left arm, I think.
Right.
And the nerve center is like, oh my god, like it's trying to assimilate with Unit 0 now.
Right.
And Gendo goes, cut off its left arm.
Yeah, this scene sticks out to me in my head. It's one of the ones I really remember vividly where the people at Nerve are like, okay, well we gotta disconnect her nerve ending.
And Gendo goes, there's no time.
No time. So she just feels her arm get ripped off.
And is like just kind of freaking out, but then Unit 3 kind of backs off and just like leaves her be.
Yeah.
As she's like, my arm.
Yeah.
And then Shinji is up to bat, and he's locked on, and he has the same thing, and he goes, I can't kill a human. I can't, someone's in there. Like, we have to try and save the pilot.
Yep.
And Gendo goes, why aren't you fighting? Or no, sorry. Unit 3 gets to Shinji and, like, grabs him by the neck and then fucking flings his shit. And then you also see that apparently the angel can give it stretchy arms because it has the reach of, like, 4 Evas.
Sure.
And then it's on top of Shinji again, strangling him.
Yeah.
And Gendo goes, why aren't you fighting back? And Shinji goes, I cannot kill another human. I won't. I'm not going to do it.
That's where I draw the line.
And then Gendo goes, okay, initiate the dummy plug. And all of the Nerve people are like, wait a minute, are you sure? And he goes, yes.
Yeah.
Shinji, like, what? And they're like, it's not ready for any of this. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't even know if we can, like, fully shut it down.
Right.
And then Gendo yells like, well, it's going to be better than the pilot that's in there right now. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
I know. Everybody's like, does he know it's his son?
Anybody clocking this? That's his kiddo. You get like one guy doing like the, yeesh, pulling the collar away.
Yep.
Yikes. And so the dummy plug gets activated. And this is the moment where shit really kind of goes buck wild. Shinji's cockpit goes dark, and then this red hue takes over.
Yeah.
And in the system, it's like, dummy plug activated. And then it's like all of the times you've seen EVA-1 kind of go apeshit.
Yeah.
Happens now, except Shinji is fully conscious while it's happening.
Right.
Every other instance where EVA-1 kind of, has like the killer's moment, coming out of my cage, like,
yeah.
Shinji comes to after the fact, only knowing that the Eva's dead, he's okay, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Not this time, though.
Yeah.
And Shinji is basically watching EVA-1 just overpower Unit 3. Like, it's not even a contest. It's not a fight, even. You know, you could be like, top 10 anime fights. This is a massacre.
It would normally be kind of fun to watch, except that you know who's on the other side of it.
You know who's on the other side, and you also know that Shinji is frantically, like, yelling, stop, no, like, turn it off, like seriously, please stop.
Right.
And there's a scene, and I made a specific note of it. So, EVA-1, like, suplexes Unit 3 into a hillside, and just starts ripping out, like, components and the arms and the ligaments, and it pans back, and it's a river, and the river's running red.
Yes.
And it's like a orange reddish skyline with just a silhouette of EVA-1 ripping away at Unit 3.
Yeah.
But then this is where shit gets real bad, because then it gets to the dummy or the actual plug.
Yes.
Where Toji is. EVA-1 grabs it, and Shinji's like, "No, turn it off, stop!" Like,
yes.
I'm not gonna
screaming.
I'm not gonna yell in the same way he is, but it is. It's pure discomfort hearing him yell, and then EVA-1 just crushes it.
Right.
Like a stick.
Yep.
And just the yell. Ooh.
I know.
I can't get it out of my head.
And the fact that the plug falls to the ground, and that is how Shinji sees that it's Toji.
Well, he doesn't see it then, because he kind of blacks out, and when he comes to, it cuts, it doesn't even show him coming to yet, because it shows Masato. She's laying, she's laying on the medical gurney.
Yeah. And
Kaji's there, and he goes, "You were so lucky."
Right, because of the explosion that happened.
And Masato goes, "How's Ritsuko?" And he goes, "She is even in better shape than you.
Right.
Like, she's okay."
Of course she is.
And Masato goes, "Thank God." And then she goes, "What happened to Unit 3? Like, where's Shinji?" And Kaji goes, "Yeah, Unit 3 has been eliminated." And she goes, "Eliminated?" And he goes, "Yeah, they used the dummy plug on Shinji to take out Unit 3." And Masato, like, panics. And it cuts to her calling, like, Shinji via the comms. And Shinji goes, I didn't have control. I tried to stop it. I yelled. I didn't mean to kill anyone. Like, kind of grappling with this idea that, like, I did it, but I wasn't in control, but I still killed someone. I didn't mean to, though. It wasn't my intent. Oh my God, I killed someone. And Masato goes, and he, over the comms, you hear, life signs from the pilot. You know, they're stable.
Right. Like,
the pilot's in stable condition. And Shinji goes, "Oh, thank God." Masato, "Who's the pilot?" And Masato goes, "Shinji, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Shinji." And she just keeps repeating it. And then she's like, "Shinji?" Because Shinji then looks down and sees Toji's, like, mangled body being pulled from the plug.
Right.
And just the scream, dude. Fucking.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, no, that is how he discovers that it's Toji, though, is from the, like, wreckage of...
Yeah. As Masato is still struggling...
I know.
To just get out that it's Toji.
Like, that's what I'm getting at, is, like, it's just so sad that still, even at the end of this episode, nobody had the balls to tell him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, dude, it was just crazy end of the episode. I mean, I honestly, for a little bit, thought that explosion killed Ritsuko and Masato. Mm-hmm. And was just like, damn, that was a really bold move by the creators
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're close to the end, but we're not, like, at the end. I'm like, shit, what are we going to do for the next, 2 months worth of episodes here without, like, half our cast?
Yeah.
So I was glad to see them back. And then I had one other note here that they did touch on the kind of romantic story with Toji and...
I legit glossed over that too. I made a comment too because the class rep, Hikari, is at the school with a lunch.
Yeah.
And she's like, huh, no Toji today.
Right.
Darn. Or not, sorry, this takes place earlier when they're at school and Kensuke is like filling Shinji in on all this shit.
Yep.
She goes, you guys know where Toji is?
Right.
Oh, well, I was going to give him lunch.
I know, I fucking made him lunch, but...
But then it cuts to her at the end of this episode in her kitchen looking at recipes. She goes, well, I hope he's hungry tomorrow.
I know, God bless her.
Oh, fuck. That was just really tough.
It is really tough. It gives this really a human element for this animated show. I mean, that's something that hits you in the feels for sure.
Oh yeah, well, God, dude, because it's just, you know, you as the viewer know all. Not all, but you know what's going on.
Yes.
And knowing that these characters are gonna have to find out the reality at some point is just brutal.
Let me ask you this as we get to our closing thoughts.
Yeah.
Knowing how bad things are now, where we leave at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a second about the time where the worst thing was Masato's curry. Ramen.
Yeah.
Those were good times.
How far we've come, dude. How far we've come.
Yeah. That used to be a rough day, but here we are.
Yeah, well... Buckle up, boyo.
It gets worse than the curry, huh?
Way worse. Well, worse than this too. It is. Oof. I in all honesty, it's tough to really go on and on about this episode because I don't want to say not a lot happens, but in reality, in scope, a lot happens, but it's not a lot of like.
It's a lot of visual storytelling.
Yeah.
It works really well because the last episode did all the setup for this.
Yeah.
And like that's where I was kind of saying at the end of last episode that
in retrospect,
really this episode's better than I give it credit for because it sets up, 18 where it can just breeze through this episode.
That is true. I feel like that is likely the reason episode 17 was so barrage in terms of information because had they not done that on the front end, we wouldn't be here on the back end kind of reaping what they sowed.
Yeah.
But I think visual storytelling is really great because that whole scene where Unit 1 is ripping apart Unit 3, it cuts to the nerve, scientist area, and every single technician is just kind of like, oh my god.
Yeah, they're in shock.
What have we made? What? And Mari, the one that had to initiate the dummy plug, can't even look.
Well, and the difference is that this time, the other times it's kind of like this freak occurrence.
Yeah, we're fighting an angel. This is what Nerve is for.
Right. But this time, that dummy plug was part of the plan.
Yeah.
This was a planned attack. People there worked on this.
Yeah.
And I think that is what separates this, where now they realize, shit, what side are we on here?
Yeah, what is the EVA? Because what we're looking at right now is scary.
Yeah.
Just way more visceral than I think anyone could have ever anticipated.
Yeah, I agree.
But...
Well, I think it's time to jump into the mechs.
Jump into the mechs. How many mechs out of 10?
I think this is the second one that I've done, but I gave this one a 10 out of 10 mechs.
Ooh.
And the reason why is because while I didn't love the last episode, it was a little bit scatterbrained. This episode just fucking nailed it. The animation was so good. The quality was so good. I thought for sure in this episode, all at once, I thought that Toji was dead.
Yeah.
I thought that Masato, Ritsuko, all these characters were dead.
Yeah.
And was convinced. Like, the storytelling was done in such a way that it actually had me, like, at a loss for words watching this. Just like, what?
Yeah.
Everything is falling apart here.
Yeah, that whole scene where the dummy plug activates.
Yeah.
My brain kind of is just like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Because you, as the viewer, are just as much kind of powerless watching this carnage happen.
It's hard to watch. It's like real emotion.
Yeah.
It's like, it is real emotion. The buildup has been worth it to this point to give you a really convincing scene where you have your main character that is just in such disarray and despair. And it pays off. Like, everything works.
Absolutely.
So, like, I think this one, to me, has to be a 10 out of 10. I think, like, while it might not have all the pieces that you would want in your perfect anime episode, not that I am the best judge of that, but for this show, this was a lot of payoff, and it did a lot in this episode. I
also gave it a 10. For mainly the reason, like, visual storytelling. And I think what's really great, and you touched on it, is that this episode invokes a lot of emotion from the viewer by what's happening, and it's done visually, which is very, like, impressive. Like, if I had to describe it, episode 17 walked, so episode 18 could run.
Sure.
And I think that we've talked about it in past episodes, how, episode 3 led into, 4, or not that specific, but the 1, 2, really good follow-ups to the prior episode. But this is the first time where that not only happened, but it's also the first time where it's not a happy ending.
Yeah.
For anyone.
Right.
I mean, like, it's happy that, like, not everyone died, but over these past couple episodes, Shinji has still lost, so to speak.
Yeah.
Against the last angel, I think he lost. And Misato makes a comment about it, I think in episode 17, where they're doing the sync test, and Shinji is, like, struggling. And that's when she's like, I'm worried about Shinji, which is why she's so hesitant to tell him about Toji being a pilot. And then this happens, and I think Misato's constant, Shinji, I'm sorry, I know. And then gets more frantic, is because I think she is really watching a downward spiral just be accelerated.
Yeah, like, Shinji was already on the brink of mental breakdown.
Just coming there.
Before this.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, fuck, how much can a guy take?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 10 for me.
It's really good, dude. It's really good. It's all earned. That's what is really great about the end of the show is, like, how many episodes of HiroBabble did I end it by saying, well, goddamn, they just keep dropping breadcrumbs, but where the hell's the payoff?
Well,
and now we're getting payoff in spades.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all earned. And that, I think, is what, and I have no idea, but I would say that's probably what separates this show from some other ones, is that it really took the time to flesh a lot of things out early and get you really invested to where now, as things start to fall apart or build up, it is emotional to watch.
Yeah. The payoff comes in spades, like you said, but you can't have a good payoff without taking the time where it matters and where it counts. And, I'm bold enough to say it. Episode 4. Beginning of Shinji and Misato's relationship. Payoff. Episode 14 and 15, when they have, like, a heart-to-heart.
Yeah.
And kind of meet in the middle finally.
Yeah.
That, and then this, you have Shinji, who episode 15 or episode 16, super confident going into the fight. Like, yeah. And then just gets shit on. And then this time, he can't even pilot the damn thing and has to still watch this carnage.
I know.
That for the first time, he is witnessing.
Yeah, they gave Shinji, like, a quarter of an episode of being happy, and then they absolutely
like,
rip it from him.
They're like, what the fuck is up, bitch?
Wait, that must be a mistake.
Oh, shit. Okay, we'll make his life hell the next episode. But yeah, well, look at that, dude. 2 10s.
2 more down. I know, we've missed a couple weeks out of the last 5 weeks, but we have been on a string of double episodes.
Yes.
And
so technically...
Technically, you've gotten 6 HiroBabble.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been putting in the work. So, I know that the standards are very high and that we'll never meet those.
Yeah.
But we're getting closer with these double episodes.
Yes.
And, damn, dude, we have, gosh, maybe... How many episodes of the show are left? 19, 20...
21. I think it's 24 or 25 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I feel like it's safe to say that we are on the home stretch.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I also, I want to mention something.
Oh, wait, no, there's 26 episodes. So...
All right, well, we're at an even number then.
We'll do, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22, 23, 24, 25.
You said 22 twice. So you're right. It'll
22.
22
twice.
Is very important. I want to take a second just to say that we really appreciate your guys' support. And we love watching this. We love bringing this to you guys. And we've gotten a lot more support recently on YouTube and just in comments, and a lot of love from you guys. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And keep it up. And I do want to mention, we don't say it every episode, but please leave us a 5-star review on the Apple Apple Podcast now, not iTunes.
Apple iTunes Pod Racing.
Pod Racer. Because that really helps us get noticed.
In terms of algorithms.
And we are really happy to read those 5-star reviews on the podcast. And if it's not 5 stars, we'll take that criticism to heart and try to get better from it.
Totally.
But I have been saying that since like the first episode, and we only still have our very first 5-star review is the only one we've gotten. So please let us know. And, I was realizing that our international listeners... their reviews do not show up on Apple Podcasts.
Really?
I was doing some research on that.
Do we have reviews from...
No, because it doesn't show up.
Oh.
So for our international people, our Philippines people, send us an email at HiroBabble@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to read that on the show, give you guys some shout out. But once again, guys, we're just so happy to do this. Thank you so much. And I'm loving it, Fernie. I mean, dude, once again, I had no idea what to expect going into this. I had a good feeling right off the bat, and it's just right off the rip.
Right off the rip.
And it's only gotten better, and I'm very happy that we've gotten so far into this, and we're excited to be finishing it soon, man.
Totally. I'm right there with you, and I share the same sentiment where I am just, honestly, it's humbling and just kind of exciting to see... like the growth we've experienced with this, and it's just really cool knowing that like we're closing in on 500 listens purely on Spotify.
Yeah.
Or not Spotify, but across all of our podcast platforms. YouTube has been really cool to see, like more new viewers, people that stumble across, along with people that have been watching since the beginning. It's just really cool, and
I feel like we're getting new follows on Facebook like all the time. So
and it's honestly just very exciting. So I can't wait to see where things continue. But from the bottom of my heart, and Spenso's, we're honestly really stoked you guys are tuning in, and we can't wait to wrap this series and announce our next one.
Yeah, you guys will have to wait.
Yeah, you'll have to wait.
Well, Fernie, for those that waited through past the mech ratings, Let's give him a little treat, Fernie.
Okay.
I haven't thought about what this treat might be.
Okay.
But why don't you give them a little bit of what they can expect?
Expect from what?
Expect, obviously, from next week's episode.
Depression.
There we go, folks.
You heard it here first.
Thank you for sticking around.
Cool. Well, hey, I'm Michael.
And I'm Spencer.
And this was the HiroBabble Podcast. See you next time.